Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so there are participants joining in from different parts of the world, and that's the very reason I thought I'll wish them as per the time zones. This is your speaker for the day, Ramanujan. You can call me Ram. We are beginning this session on creative compensation and benefits for the GenY workforce formerly right now. And I'd like to welcome each one of you to this session. And I would love to interact and would like to have an environment where we can share knowledge and learn from each other. A kind request is that the format of the session will go like this. The first 30 minutes, we will walk through some of the data points that I've tried to gather in the presentation and a bit of essence of my experience in managing compensation benefits for the generation Y. And I would request, just wanted to check if my voice is quite audible to those who joined the session. We have a chat window where you can probably respond in case if I'm inaudible. Let me pause for a moment and then check whether. Yeah, let me repeat the question, my dear friends. I just wanted to check if my voice is audible before we proceed further. Yeah, your voice is unmuted right now. So you may please confirm verbally if I'm audible. Audible, right? Can we proceed further?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So as I was mentioning, the format of the session will be like this. The first 30 minutes will be a quick or rather a slightly elaborate walkthrough of the trends and the market situations and whatever essence of experience I've carried in the last few years of managing compensation benefits for Generation Y. And the last 15 minutes is completely dedicated for interactions, questions and answers. And so you may please jot down wherever you have a doubt or a question. I request you that please jot down your questions, and towards the end of the session, the last 15 minutes will be completely for the question and answer session. Now, having said that, I thought before we get into anything really formal, wanted to start the day with a lighter note, and we're just trying to recollect the conversation that I was having with my 7-year-old son. I mean, a typical GenY product in the morning. He was actually very interestingly watching a bit of a movie on an iPod repair screen, and that's when this tune actually also hit my mind. Yeah, so here's a tune which exactly reflected the morning's conversation, where you find a conversation between a dad and a son saying that I've spent a fortune for 60-inch plasma TV and now you would rather watch programs on a 2-inch iPod screen. So that's the pace in which the technology is growing, and that is the same pace in which, or in a more rampant pace, is the journey of adaptation of the new generations which are setting in. So now let's have a quick view of a short information on, the whole session is going to be on GenY today. So we need to understand who are GenY. So if you look at the illustration on the screen, this set of people who were born between 1980 and say 1995 are typically the people who are called GenY. And prior to that, all of us know that it was Gen X and then the baby boomers. And so our session is going to focus more on the creating compensation and benefits for the people of this generation. Now, having said that, I have been working with GenY as a HR person in different roles in the last 1 decade, I would say. I have been involved in recruiting or interviewing and training GenY for job readiness or for industry ready projects in the initial stages of my career, and then later there's a lot of training that I've done for GenY, and in the last 5 years I've been managing compensation and benefits for quite a lot of organizations where GenY has been the major workforce. And during this period, in the last 5 to 6 years, I would say, where whatever HR conferences I've attended, whatever compensation and benefits or rewards or appreciation or any be it any theme on a human resource development or human resource management, any conferences that I've attended, what I have seen is as a pattern, there has been at least one session, a good one slot or a panel discussion on GenY. So why is there so much of an importance or so much of significance that this GenY has gained? I think this perspective needs to be understood clearly before we deep dive any further into the discussion for the day. So let's look at a statistics published by the US Census Bureau, which says that in 2025, GenY will be the major workforce, or they rather say millennials will form the majority of the workforce globally, which means this is one population which has to be certainly focused, because they're going to be our future population who will decide how organizations should work and who will be the customers who will decide how the market has to function. In such a situation, it becomes pretty much imperative that we need to understand and start working our strategy towards ensuring that this millennial population is nurtured and they are empowered to take the industry forward in the growth trajectory. So for this to happen, instead of directly deep diving into what kind of a salary to be given them or what kind of benefits to be given, always as HR professionals or in specific rewards and benefits professionals, the first thing is we need to understand. There's always been this misconception in the market that people who are pretty good at numbers, who are number crunchers and the Excel geeks are the real competent guys. Yeah, no doubts about it. Yes, we need to be number savvy. But experiences always taught us that what is more important is understanding the psyche, the needs, and the preferences of people. After all, the compensation is completely built on that. So that way, I would say, even today's, a very age-old concept which we are going to brush up at textbooks. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs will always be a classical stepping stone when it comes to designing creative compensation and benefits for any generation, for that matter. So now let's try to understand the psyche of our customers. Now, all of us are convinced that since the whole topic or the topic of discussion for the day is going to be GenY, I think it's better that we address them as customers from this point. I hope all of you are with me. So before we proceed any further, now we have come to a point where I need to ask this $1 million question. How many of us ourselves are GenY? I know I put you guys on mute, and how far I'll be able to get an answer. Maybe reserve this answer towards the end of the discussion where we're going to have a Q&A session. So if some of you are already, I'm hoping that good amount of you are already, GenY people here. I'm a borderline case actually, having born in 1979, towards the fag end of the Gen X and Gen Y. So I will be interchangeably using these terms, they, them, or we and ours, because it's going to be an inclusive population, as I'm assuming. Now, so there are certain things which may be a bit of facts. So there's nothing, if somebody is here as a Gen Y, please, there's no offense about it. So the first point, if you look at is, before I could proceed any further, one affirmation which I wanted to make is, this slide, whatever points have been mentioned in this slide, is not based on any statistics or any global survey or anything. This is sheer my own experience and what I've been hearing from many of the industry, HR and competent professionals, and even some psychologists and psychiatrists. So this is basically more of a hearsay, which has been observed in the society of late. When it comes to Gen Y, the first thing that we cannot deny is that this is one generation which considers individuality as a key trait for themselves. So they would always like to be unique, and they would want to be themselves, recognized as what they are and not part of a herd. And next is, this is one generation which has got the maximum social contacts and networks. thanks to social media, thanks to technology, and thanks to handheld devices, this generation is a highly social savvy generation. And having worked with quite a few GenY people in my own team, what I've observed is these are people who are highly creative, pretty innovative, and people who look at the world at a higher pace. They want things to happen at a higher pace, a faster pace. So creativity, innovation, and speed in which things happen really excites them. Having said all the real impressive points, yes, I would not want to call it areas of improvement. Some of the other side of the traits of this generation is it's a pattern that most people have a volatile temper. That doesn't mean that they are short-tempered. Instant gratification is what we can psychologically associate when I use the word volatile temper. So a bit of impatience, you can call it as, or a quick forward thinking of what. And what excites them is more money, which doesn't mean that this generation is completely materialistic. Certainly not. The following slides are going to tell us the other side of it. But yes, preference is more money, and not just money. There's a lot more than money that these people want. So let's move on to the next part of the session, where we're going to discuss about some of the market trends. So since majority of the participants are from India, I thought we'll start with what's happening in India with regard to GenY in terms of now we are slowly getting into the grooves of the topic. So we're going to talk comp now, we're going to talk numbers, we're going to talk money. So let's start with trends in India, then we'll expand into Asia, and then look at a global trend. So here's a survey, or here's a news item, I would call it as, which I've picked up from Economic Times. And this is nothing new. We have been here. We've been reading in the newspapers and hearing and seeing in social media every day. But one specimen incident is that recently 4 IIT Kanpur students have turned down a INR 1 crore per annum offer. While most of us, the Gen X guys, 1 crore would have always been a life aspiration for us to save. And 1 crore in a year is not something so easy. But this generation has got that conviction to say no to money when it comes to compromising on their individuality, or on their interests, or on their recognition. So why is this pattern of more and more students coming from premium institutions declining big paying offers happening? If you look at the small illustrative clip that you find in the slide has a comparison between the multinational corporations offer and the domestic offers. So if we typically look at the basic pay, vis-a-vis comparison between the basic pay of the international offers and the domestic offers, it is almost closer to about 50% or slightly higher than that. People do not hesitate to take a half cut down in the compensation, and if you look at what was the reason, they are more inclined towards job profile which excites them, where they're able to unleash and unravel their talent and creativity. So as I said, yes, money is a priority, but not the only priority. So I thought I will take a quick pause here and then unmute all you guys just to take stock of, is it going in the right direction, or any particular feedback you have at the moment? Yeah, is there anybody who has a query or who has a suggestion? I thought I'll pass by and then ask you this question. You're all not on mute right now, so please feel free to speak. So are we on the right track? So what do I construe this silence as? So speech is silver and silence is golden. I hope everybody is eagerly waiting to move into the next slide, so I do not want to waste your time further. Let us move on. So what we infer from this presentation or this particular slide is that even though money has been one of the key drivers in terms of making decisions regarding compensation, it is not the only driver. Unlike in Gen X, where if there is a slight compromise required on role, so that the materialistic benefits take precedence, where compromises are being made, Gen Y is pretty much clear that it is job satisfaction and the excitement that they get out of doing what they like and what they want first, and then followed with money. So that's the crux of this particular illustration that you have seen. Now let's move on to another interesting piece of information of what's happening in Asia. So let's look at, this is another data, a survey data which has been taken in 2014 by some of the premium agencies in Malaysia. So it says that of the overall attrition in the Malaysian market, about 50% is being contributed by Gen Y. This sounds a bit shocking for us, right? Yes, of course. So let's deep dive and see what is happening actually. And it doesn't stop there. The turnover data also suggests that 60% of the Malaysian Gen Y workforce are planning to leave their jobs within the first 3 years from when they have been hired. So this is one concern that most corporations, there is equal amount of, there is a similar amount of data. There's a lot of data which suggests similar trends in India and even global trends. So if money was the only concern, I don't think people would want to just leave for the sake of money their jobs in the first 3 years and go. There must be something else which is much more taking precedence of this phenomenon. So here's a global statistics. Unfortunately, the source, despite my best efforts, I was not able to. Maybe I'll try to share the source after this session in the next couple of days. But then the data was pretty much interesting that I was tempted to share with you people. If you look at here, of the global population of people jumping jobs or people changing jobs or whatever we call, there's a gender-wise statistics. I'm not going to get into the gender-wise details at this point, but the interesting piece of information here is that more than 50% of the millennials are influenced to accept a job offer based on the fact that the company is, or the corporation which is hiring them is involved in cost-based volunteering or cost-based social responsibility. Even last week, I was actually talking to quite a few CEOs of small and medium enterprises where they were Indian small and medium enterprises and traditional family-held organizations in India who are able to offer salaries decently at par with some of the multinational companies because they want to hire good talent, but still the CEOs have a concern that these small and medium enterprises do not have do not participate in, because that's not a mandate right now in India, and because of their non-involvement in CSR activities, many of the Gen Y population, despite giving good salaries, they have turned down their offers because they feel that they are part of the society from where they have come and they would like to give back to it. So if you look at participating in activities where we give back to the society, also becomes a key driver in terms of decisions regarding accepting or declining an offer. So having looked at the last two slides, which have given us a lot of information about what typically are the key career drivers of Gen Y, now we are moving into the most important part of a customer's mindset, called their attitude towards work. Having said that, yes, I always strongly believe attitude is one word which has been grossly abused and grossly misused in the industry. So I'm not going to get into that typical this double quotes within the double quotes definition of attitude, but what I would like to, the way I'm using the term attitude here is basically their outlook towards their profession or outlook towards work. So GenY has a very clear focus on their job. So they have a very clear principle that unlike Gen X, where most of us live to work, they work to live. I'm sorry, I think I'd put it the other way. While most of the baby boomers and Gen Y always had this passion, we call ourselves workaholics, and then we say that we just work to live, and these people just live and they just work. So they look at work as just part of their life. It is a part of their intellectual, a way of fulfilling their intellectual satisfaction. And beyond that, they have a lot of things to look at in life. So work is just a part of life for the Gen Y workforce. And the focus is pretty much on the output. So it's not about the process, which means sometimes, yes, even if there is a short route that is available, a legitimate short route which is available to success, they always look at inventing and reinventing processes and then and ensuring that there is a better and shorter way to do the work. So ultimately, it's not about the work which is being done, but the focus is completely on the results. So it is very immaterial. Do I need to sit at my office inside a 10x10 cabin and then work within the office network, or work on a cloud-based solution sitting at a coffee shop? So it's not about where I work and how I work. It's all about what kind of results I deliver on the table. And this is one generation, as this point can be actually connected to a particular point that we had in the first slide on psyche called volatile tempers. So mundane, monotonous jobs are of no attraction to this generation. They look at excitement and change as part of their work environment, as part of their day-to-day job responsibilities. So this is one generation which really appreciates variety in job, in terms of job rotation, and they look at fast-track growth in their career. Unlike baby boomers or even early parts of Gen X, where we were pretty much okay with this 4 years or 3 years policy of promotion, that's not what excites them. So fast-track growth is pretty much a key driver for decisions on career and job changes in this generation. And this is one generation who cannot draw a sharp boundary between work and social life. So this point basically has its own merits and demerits, but then with the world shrinking today, we are from different parts of the world, but we are able to sit and discuss on a particular topic, sitting at our own offices or at the comfort of sitting at our home without any need for booking air tickets. So socialization or connecting to people has become a part of the life and thanks to technology. So this generation feels that the blurring lines which separate work life and social life is actually every day diminishing, and they almost say they strongly believe that there is no such line which actually exists. And a very sensitive generation which has a lot of care and concern for environment and various causes. They feel that volunteering, Gen X and Gen Y people used to believe that contributing to causes and working for the society was more like a social service or a social work, which is a part-time or a hobby activity. But this generation strongly believes it is giving back to this planet is pretty much a part of their work life itself. So I would like to pass here and then just ask you whether the pace is okay, or are there any questions or any suggestions at this point of time?
Vaibhav Group, Visakhapatnam. I have a question for you.
Sure. I'm sorry to cut in.
Mr. Ramadan, this is M.V. Subbarao from Vaibhav Group, Visakhapatnam.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have a question for you. You said that the Gen Y, they are speaking only for 3 years. As far as our experience is concerned, 1 year they take only to understand the organization.
Okay.
And second year, 1 year they take to understand the organization.
Fair enough.
Second year, slowly contribution starts. And during third year, once they start contributing, they leave the organizations. That is a big problem. and it is a disaster as far as the employer is concerned. Secondly, the displacement costs are to the tune of 60 months salary, which is quite high. And the third thing, the society part which you have covered, even the employee is not comfortable on family front because of this, because of the materialistic benefits which he sees. What are your thoughts on this? You can throw some wisdom.
Yeah, I was just wondering if somebody from the group would like to contribute something so that I can consolidate towards the end. Is there anybody who would like to add to what Mr. Subbarao was? Mr. Subbarao, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody who would like to contribute any views? Fair enough. Yeah, just to quickly, put it into a nutshell, first is you were talking about the 3 years pattern where first year you understand the organization, second year you understand the job, and then third year, people try to contribute, and before they could understand whether are they really contributing or not, they get impatient and they leave the organization. So the 3 years phenomenon, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the second part was more on the socializing front, where they are more happy about getting connected with friends in the virtual world than in the real world.
Yes.
Yeah, I think your observations are pretty much right. On the first point, it requires actually the right engagement that we drive in the first year. If you look at, in fact, when I was working for one of the, traditional legacy Indian companies where I was heading education benefits, we were critically looking at the infant attrition data, and as you rightly had pointed out, in infant attrition, confidentiality prevents me from giving you the exact numbers, but a significant amount of infant attrition was basically from people of 0 to 3 years experience, the typical GenY population that we were talking about. So when we were trying to deep dive into the data, we found that there could have been engagement from both sides. One is, as an organization, we also felt that we were trying to give them the same kind of environment or give them the same kind of induction or hand-holding that we have been giving for ages as a legacy system. While the expectation of this generation is entirely different. On the other hand, we also understand that these people spend a lot of time on socializing, social media, and obviously, as we said, the thin line is between social and work life, and therefore there are distractions, and which is also leading to, despite their capability, it is also leading to the so-called lack of performance. So it's actually both ways. Organizations also have to, go a long way, especially, in the Asian countries, in my own personal experience, have to go a long way in terms of understanding how to engage GenY. At the same time, people should also, educational institutions, because as I said at the earlier stages of my career, I had worked with about 8,000 young graduates, engineering and science graduates in India, who were campus rejects, and we worked on a finishing school program to get them industry ready. So that experience suggested that there is a huge gap in the academic system where the people are not taught any social skills. In fact, if you look at the elementary school and high school subjects, something called as civics and a major chunk of social science has actually been chopped up, and there is more of technology, robotics and computer science today. I think it's a social phenomenon. To answer your question in precise, one is yes, the academic system has to impart more of social skills and psychological skills and make them more stable, kind of people. Make them understand that everything cannot be at their disposal. Right on the day one or the day two. There are things in the nature which take its own course. And second is organizations also have to come forward significantly in terms of bridging this gap by making the engagement more meaningful and more appealing to this generation, which is what we are going to see in the slides to come. on how we can make it more innovative and more interesting. And third is the socializing. We have to empower them and then guide them in such a way that we cannot curtail and curb social networking or social relationships. We are part of a world where it has become a way of life. So we will have to bring about meaningful policies in our practice, which will not feel them that they are curtailed. At the same time, it also cuts across a strong message that it is for work and not for fun. Hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Raman.
Should we proceed?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we'll move to the next slide. And now, before I would like to break the suspense and tell you what are these people's expectations over job. I'm sure all of you being HR professionals and in your, with your experience and in your career, you would have met quite a lot of Gen Y people. So let me understand from your perspective, what are the expectations, and then I'll quickly summarize. I'll just unmute it. Give me a word. So what in your experience as HR professionals do you think is the Gen Y expectation over the job? My dear friends, I thought if we make it a little interactive, the learning will be. I think I should also learn a few things from you as I go back home. Right? So please liberally contribute to the knowledge. Am I audible? Ladies and gentlemen, am I audible? I'm only worried if everybody is hearing. Yeah, work environment has come as one input. Pretty interesting. Anything else? Yeah, apparently, a small irony I wanted to share is I had been asking questions to you people and I was actually expecting an answer. It took a Gen Y to tell me that why don't you please open the chat window, they are all answering already. That's the gap you see between Gen X and Gen Y. Sorry, unfortunately, later part of Gen X. Okay, so we get other inputs like expectation of Gen Y could be job security, certainly not. Role clarity, yes, excellent. Team bonding. Work to be more interesting and meaningful, excellent. Very good inputs. I'm just waiting to see if anybody is able to rewards, fantastic. Want to grow fast, amazing. I'm just waiting to see that one major point if anybody could touch upon. Rewards and appreciations, pretty much fine. Platform for ideas to share, work culture, excellent, self-satisfaction, amazing. All right, so there are pretty much a lot of interesting inputs that this fraternity has contributed so far. Now, let me break the suspense. This is one generation. So here I'm not talking based on any assumptions or presumptions, but this is sheer data. Please hang on. Here I break the suspense. This is one generation where the first thing that they want in work is internet. Now let's look at this interesting survey conducted by Cisco, which says that 1 of every 3 college students and young employees believes the internet is as important as air, water, food, and shelter. So internet has become a basic need today types. Let's deep dive into this survey results. So it further suggests that 2 in 5 say they would take a lower salary in exchange for more flexibility in device choice, social media access, and mobility. 46% of them say that their laptop is the most important technology. This is a little old survey actually. This 2011. Today, if I roll out the survey, nobody will talk about laptops. Today, everybody will talk about minimum MacBooks and tabs. And 7 out of 10 Facebook users say that they have friended a co-worker or a superior. That's interesting. And 68% of Twitter users. Isn't it sounding interesting? This is something which I'm talking about, a little old data of 2011. If we do it today, I'm sure there will be a lot more points which is coming in. And interestingly, yesterday I was actually sitting in the boardroom of a small and medium IT enterprise, Indian-based company. I mean, a network security company. I was sitting in the boardroom, busy discussing with the CFO and the CEO on the reward strategy for the forthcoming year. And we have an idea sharing platform called Power of Idea, where there are collaborative forums and specific dedicated emails where people can. Oh, somebody feels it's still the same. Yes, of course, it's still the same. But what I'm trying to say is that the trend is on the uptrend. It is increasing actually. So there'll be more points to add. Thank you so much, Sampata. So going back to this discussion that I was having yesterday. So I had picked up all these ideas which were relevant to the employee ideas, which were relevant to their salary, compensation, benefits. And here there was one suggestion, interesting suggestion, which is saying that one of the employees have said that the company is giving us Dell and HP laptops, which will be costing X. And we also own our own Dell or HP or whatever laptops, which is going to cost Y. So if you add X and Y, it's going to be so much. So they have given a cost benefit analysis. And then they say, why not, instead of having two devices and then separating personal and work life and all that, why not the company buy us a MacBook where we'll be equal stakeholders? Let the company invest 50% of the money, and as stakeholders, we will invest the remaining 50% of the money, so that there'll be one device. We can control both personal and professional life. And at the end of the 3-year period where the property becomes the individual's property than the company property, they say that the company need not spend on the maintenance, annual maintenance. The individual will spend on maintaining and repairing the device. At the same time, they say that the company can pay them a small money, a rental for using their device for work. And this is a 65 employee company, which is out and out and with an average age group of 22 to 25. And this is the kind of suggestion. So all of us were taken aback for a while. Of course, it's not that we can roll it out tomorrow morning. There are a lot of practical, the legal aspects and financial aspects which we need to look into it. But the crux of the matter here is that they are willing to compromise on money for the sake of having the best technology in place. And once again, they cannot separate out work and social life. That is the crux of the matter. So this is the first expectation. But this is not, having said this, this is not the only expectation. This is one of the major expectations which I wanted to talk about. And other expectations are almost there. So I'm sorry, because of some technical snags, we are slightly overshooting. I hope people do not mind. I'm going to take another 7 to 10 minutes exactly to give the perspective. Then we can get into a 10 minutes discussion and then conclusion. Please do chat. Please do send me a chat message if anybody is having a constraint. So some of the expectations, as the fraternity here had rightly put it across, is a stimulating work environment, fun at the same time, a lot of sense of satisfaction and challenge at work. And bureaucracy is a big no-no for this. I think today the decision has to be tomorrow. I suggest today the decision has to be today evening. So there is no, yes, it has been put through the boardroom, there will be discussions, shareholders, nothing. They want the decision to be right then and there. And this is one generation who have born and been brought up in the knowledge and technology revolution. So they strongly believe that they have the knowledge, capacity, and capability to question old processes and suggest innovation. And the boss has to be a practitioner rather than a preacher. If I will have to roll down my sleeves and stretch in the evening, I would expect my boss to do the same along with me, not to sit at home and then send those follow-up mails and text messages. And reverse mentoring and reverse delegation are two big happening things. And in fact, if I have to talk about reverse mentoring, one of the best examples I could give is the recent Let's Come Home Back Diwali campaign of Coca-Cola, which was a GenY reverse mentoring. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm giving more of references to the Indian context, me being a practitioner from India. But I'm sure this is pretty much something which we can relate to our own context of our countries and the global scenario as well. And recognition, feedback, and instant gratification is pretty much something they need, which excites them, motivates them towards work. And this is one generation which is not worried about job security. They have a very different perspective of why they want to stick to a particular company. I think this is where I'm probably able to throw a little more perspective on Mr. Subbarao's point. Exactly when it comes to the third year, when we think that they are not performing well and they jump jobs, apparently the fact is that they have already outgrown the particular job and they feel that it is anymore not exciting or stimulating for them. So they are trying to look at opportunities to explore within the organization. I mean, here is born a new term called entrepreneurship. So this is something, now a lot of companies are actually looking at being very liberal in terms of the job rotation policies. And in fact, this was one particular insight which we got from, if you remember, I was talking about the trending which we studied in our previous organization. And this is one conscious call which we took, that we implemented a internal job posting mechanism where after understanding that people outgrow their jobs faster, we wanted to give opportunity to the internal talent. And that's where this concept of entrepreneurship was brought in place. And yes, if you ask me, has it been a complete solution for arresting attrition? Let me not be quite aspirational in saying that, but yes, attrition at the GenY level after the internal process of internal job posting had come in, and when we were able to give job rotation, we have been able to put job rotation policies in place, it has reduced significantly. It's a combination of factors that we need to look at. Security factor, thanks Dima for asking this question. Security factor, in my limited knowledge, I don't think is a major concern for them, because this generation feels that they can always find jobs with their skills and abilities. So security is not a major concern in my view. Anyways, I would like to pass here and then throw it open to the rest of the people to give some perspective on the security aspect. Is there anybody who feels differently that yes, GenY still cares for job security? You may please, your thoughts are welcome at this point. Or maybe rather, I would suggest that please reserve this point for discussion towards the end of the session. Now, what else excites them is cash. So we, most of the Gen X and baby boomer people were looking at more of compulsory savings. But this is one generation which says, here I can make it very clear that when we did a compensation rationalization in one of the big time companies in India where I was heading compensation and benefits, we did a compensation rationalization and we had to clearly bifurcate and create two different compensation plans, one for the baby boomers and Gen X and one separate one for the Gen Y, where we had given about 60% of their compensation to be designed by themselves. And trust me, today there are interesting characters who, when they talk to me during, I'm sure all of you will also have the same experience, when they talk to me about compensation negotiation, they ask me this question, Ram, is there a way that can we just get rid of all this EPF, ESI stuff? I need cash in hand. Apparently, there are various social factors which also is actually triggering them to ask these questions or have those expectations of having more cash in hand. See, they are a generation who are starting, at least in Asian countries, as I believe, and with specific respect to India. This is one generation which has been pushed to a sad state of coming out of college, not just with colorful dreams, but with a huge bag of bank loans. So now what happens? And also tall aspirations to buy a car in the first year, or rather, a very, what do you call it, a race bike in the first year. Car has become an old fashion today. And an apartment in a high rise, in the 15th floor of a high rise. So with all these aspirations, what attracts them is more cash in hand. So that's the crux of the matter. So having done a good dose of understanding about flexible work schedules, yes, now the next slide is going to talk about the other aspects of the expectations. So as I said, whatever we have been talking here is about the collective knowledge that I have gathered from the various seminars and conferences that I have attended in the last 5-6 years. Now here is some recent statistics and survey data which says what are the top preferences of Gen Y when it comes to their monetary and emotional expectations. So, you will, I don't know, you will get your question answered there. With me? Thank you. So now to go back to this point of security, more than job security, this is one generation which has also exhibited that, in addition to excitement, fun and other stuff, yes, they also care for security, but not the job security, but about the life security. So apparently, if you look at in the top 6 items that attracts Gen Y to take in terms of their decision as per a Hayes report, in terms of their decision to choose a job or to leave a job. Company pension is at 33%. So it is at the 5th place. So last but one. And yeah, somebody asked about flexibility, right? So that is also there. Possibility to work flexibly is the second factor. In fact, 49% votes have been cast on that. And as we look at clearly, 61%, the top thing is still the base salary. And then next followed by possibility to work flexibly. Flexibility is a key factor. Even yesterday, here was this guy with whom in one of the client organizations where I'm consulting, he has met with an accident. He has been advised by the doctor to be in rest at home because he's not supposed to climb stairs and not supposed to travel. The management and the HR is forcing him to take sick leave. And this guy says, I'm staying in a bachelor accommodation and I don't have anything else to do. My only constraint is not being able to travel to office. Why do you want me to take sick leave unnecessarily? Let me log in from home and work from home. So their focus on work is pretty much clear, but then at the same time, flexibility is something they expect. So is this trending any interesting to people? Yeah, there are companies where they are trying to reduce the work time from 9 hours to 7 hours to answer your question, Jima, but not very common in India. But I think the trend is emerging, and definitely knowledge industry is seriously looking at it. The challenge would be in typical manufacturing and shop floor environments where the productivity is based on how much time you work, and it is important that also they have to be at the shop floor, to supervise or to manage. But typical what do you call as the back office or the corporate office jobs, yes, I think 7 hours in the next decade it will certainly become the order of the day. Sampata, I'm just a little confused with your question. Could you please throw a little more light? Are you talking about their interest levels in terms of doing monotonous jobs? That actually they are not very excited. Yeah, here it is a little difficult to draw a standard conclusion and give you a one-line answer. But basically, as you see, given their volatile temper and their excitement, so there are people who would be interested in doing as well. But as you said, if you look at the population mix between Gen X and Gen Y, yes, the trend is coming down as such. No? Not many people really appreciate doing mundane jobs. They want every day to a different day. Do agree with you to a major extent, but it ultimately all boils down to the cultural context. I think in countries like Japan, where people are more still that workaholic tendency is there. Yes, China for that matter. I guess definitely people are still prepared to do. Philippines also, which is becoming the KPO and BPO capital of the world. Yes, these are certain countries which I feel so. This trend is still existent. So it all depends on the cultural context and also the individual's interests. But by and large, if I have to give a one-line answer, yes, they are not very excited about doing mundane jobs, which are the same every day. Does that answer your question? Thank you. So what is the best way to retain? Yeah, we are going to that next. So that's the slide which says that. Now we are done with money, and what are the non-monetary aspects? So here's another Hayes report which talks about, other than money, what are the typical aspects, what in the comp-and-ben or the rewards professionals language we call as emotional compensation. Today, for those who are new to the rewards space or comp-and-ben, people who are exploring compensation benefits as a career, two important terms that you need to probably make a note of is monetary compensation and emotional compensation. If you look at now, the trend is moving pretty much towards the emotional compensation front than the monetary compensation front. Having said that, yes, money is always important for everybody, which we have been seeing in the previous trends. Yeah, on the emotional compensation, here are some factors. So somebody was talking about feeling recognized, valued, and appreciated. I think that tops the list here. And the 42% which follows gives an answer to the previous people who have asked about, are they okay to do mundane jobs? 42% of them say no. We want work which is varied and which is interesting. Financial rewards are always there. And sense of recognition and contribution, sense of achievement. Learning opportunities is also interestingly. So there is always a common belief, at least in the Indian market, that the youngsters or the new generation people do not want to learn, which is a myth as such. Probably they do not want to learn in the same old methods of learning that we were institutionalizing. The trend is that today people are more interested in flexible, as like where they are expecting flexibility everywhere, they are expecting flexibility even in the learning space. more of online learning and more of webinars like this, attending more of webinars like this, and e-learning is something which excites them. In fact, when we had to launch an induction program, when I was heading, along with compensation benefits, I was also heading a bit of employee transactions. I mean, I was actually trying to set up the HR shared services organization for TVS Group. The tagline that we had for our induction program was, learn at your own time, your own place, your own pace. So there was, when we started making the induction program, the employee induction program more flexible, yes, of course, with boundaries, saying that, okay, here's the induction module available. Here's your virtual tutor where you can ask for questions, you can chat and all that. So having said all of this, you have to ensure that you go through this mandatory induction before such and such date, failing which your compensation module will not be activated. So when we did that, we found that the interest levels and then the subscription and nomination towards induction programs started increasing, and people were excited to learn at their own time, own place and own pace. So everywhere there is a different way and a different approach which if we are able to tap exactly, we will be able to get this generation into the groove, and then they will definitely deliver wonders for us. But it's only up to how the organizations are going to capitalize on this fact. Any questions or any doubts on this? We have only a couple of more slides to discuss about. Yep. So now we have talked so much about what is the psyche of the GenY, what they like, what they dislike, what they enjoy at work, what they prefer and all that. Now here comes this pretty important question. How do we use this rich knowledge base to build a proper, exciting compensation plan? So that is the topic of the day. Yeah, Jima, that's an excellent question. We are exactly right there. So let's follow the slides. You will understand how it is happening. So how do we connect emotional rewards with the compensation plan? Excellent question. I think she deserves a big round of applause for setting the ground for the aircraft to take off. We are at the right place now. We are going to be, the rocket is on the launch pad and we're going to launch. So here is this concept called total rewards. Once again, people who are new or who are exploring the compensation and benefits space among the fraternity here. From compensation and benefits, in the last half a decade, we have moved to a new term called rewards. And in the last couple of years, in fact, we have emerged to a very, very attractive term called total rewards. Which means when we do the manpower budgeting, most mature organizations today have moved away from only factoring their salaries and tangible benefits, but they are also factoring the cost of, so when I'm deciding the CTCF for a particular position, job position, I also tend to factor the cost which is required to fund or which is required to create the emotional factor, the emotional compensation. So total rewards is a novel approach in the reward space today, where it is an approach to strike a balance between your compensation and benefits and the, or rather the monetary compensation and the non-monetary aspects called emotional compensation. When it comes to creating a total reward plan, interestingly, this is a huge space and there is no boundaries to it. Sky is the limit. It is up to the creativity of the individual and the trend of the organization. Nevertheless, it will be apprehensive. I'm going to leave you in a state of apprehension if I don't talk some specifics. So now I'm going to the next slide. Before which, here's another interesting statistics which was taken in 2014 once again, which says that 95% of the global HR leaders believe that there is value in integrated rewards than sheer monetary rewards. So what is this integrated rewards? How do we create a proper integrated or a total reward plan? Here are some suggestions. So this is, at the end of this discussion, I will make arrangements that the organizers of the webinar will be able to share some of parts of this presentation, especially this particular slide. So what I have put on screen here is not just the Indian scenario, but this is more of after studying global practices, because I was also, leading the rewards delivery platform, which was catering to a population of 72,000 employees across 30 countries in the globe, when I was part of the rewards delivery center at Stanchart. So what I was able to understand from in my experience and interaction is that the need for being very creative about the cash compensation is actually not that required as most of we HR professionals are feeling. We are significantly moving towards the emotional aspect of the compensation. So let's look at this particular slide, which is on your computer screen. So when we have to design a total rewards plan or a total rewards package for GenY, these are some of the key factors that we need to take into consideration, or rather, to put it in a more understandable language, these are factors which are being considered by successful rewards professionals across the globe. So we have to look at it in terms of 5 buckets. The first is what we call as pay for potential. I carry a certain potential to do the work which is manifested in the form of my past career track. So which is compensated on cash. And pay for performance. So to drive my performance, there is some amount of cash which is required, which is a nitrous oxide fuel, which is going to propel my performance. And that is also a cash component once again. And we saw that long-term security and old age pensions and social security at the retirement age is a pretty much important aspect. So when I'm talking about future security, here last week I was when I was negotiating compensation with a pretty young aspirational candidate. He was actually talking about saying that he would every 3 years he would like to accumulate some cash of say about 3.5 to 5 lakh Indian rupees, and before he changes from his job to the next job, he would want to take a 30 days of career break where he prefers to do international travel with that money that he has accumulated. And he is pretty much also clear that out of that money, 60% he will use for his international travel and 40% he will keep for his retirement. And by the way, my friends, when I say retirement, for them it is not, for this generation, it is not 58 years. Rather, it is around 35 to 40 years on an average. And I get to see that this age pattern is slashing. And for them, retirement is not about just staying away from job. For them to go and explore new career avenues, there are a lot of aspirations that people carry. Some of them want to quit their job and then they want to go become musicians, and there are people who want to go and explore the world on a world tour. The aspirations are, there is no leaps and bounds for aspirations. So for all this, they want money to be accumulated in the form of a long-term wealth creation. And of course, benefits and emotional compensation. So now I would like to pause here, and instead of me reading out, I think reading this out will be like a kindergarten classroom session of a dictation words. So I would rather want to start the interaction from this point of time, and then we will actually close the discussion with some interesting trends on what leading organizations do to retain. Some of you were interested in knowing what organizations do to retain their talent. So we are almost at the back end of the session now, and let's start interacting. Let me open up the voice chat option as well. Jima, you had a question. How do we connect emotional rewards as part of building a compensation plan, right? So let me understand if this slide is helping you in this aspect. Do we have to, you want me to deep dive any specific aspects and say how we can connect it? Any specific part that you would like to touch upon? Yeah, if you come to the emotional compensation part and look at the The fifth element, there's something called the learning and development. The company gives an opportunity to do a certification. Okay, let me understand your question further. The taxable nature, are you asking about from the part of the organization or from the part of the individual? For individual, no, because he is not receiving any tangible cash in his bank account. He is actually getting to enjoy a benefit pretty much as your leased car. So that way, no, it is not taxable. In the organization front, it depends on how it is being interpreted by your auditor. And the taxation laws, since we are in a global forum where the taxation laws differ between countries, it pretty much depends on the context. In India, yes, if you are able to justify that it's a business expenditure, it is not taxable, to answer your question. So, yeah, sponsoring them for a certification program, yes, is definitely an important part of it pretty much fits into the learning and development piece of it. And now we'll tell you how we make our people, our employees understand and appreciate the emotional compensation that the company provides. So we all know that at the time of a pay rise or at the time of somebody is joining, we have something called as this Annexure 1 or Annexure A as part of the appointment letters we roll out, or the employment contract that we roll out, whichever be the country. Today we are graduating away from that to a higher plane called total reward statement. A total reward statement is a comprehensive statement which talks about the individual's maximum earning potential. So we are moving away from CTC, the cost to company, to a maximum earning potential, MEP concept. So the total reward statement first says what are the cash benefits that the company is going to give you this year or the company has given you this year, and what is the cost of the learning programs that you've been sponsored, what are the benefits being given, what are the cost of the benefits. We have stopped saying you are covered under a health insurance premium. You have a family floater coverage of 5 lakhs of health insurance premium. We rather say that the premium spent on a 5 lakh coverage is such and such. So each and every single element of both, and if I say you are given flexible hours of working, then what is the opportunity cost of that flexible hours of working? That is being worked by the finance department, and that is also part of the, okay, if the company is going to give a laptop to them, so what is the laptop rental that is the company is being spending on vis-a-vis having a desktop and making them work from the office. So like this, if you start deep diving into the cost which is associated behind each and everything that you see on the extreme end called the emotional compensation, there is of course a cost attached to it. Do all of us agree to that fact that there's a cost attached to each of this? Yes. So if we are able to monetize that and show it as part of the total reward statement, and then finally, if I will have to add all of this, the cumulative is what is your maximum earning potential. And the variable compensation also, we do not show the average trending. We show an optimistic trending of if we were in a good year, the organizational performance is excellent, the team performance is also excellent, and the individual performance is also excellent. This is the maximum variable comp. Total reward statement is much more than CTC. CTC is one part of the total reward statement. When I say CTC, whatever we call as CTC in today's terminology is an integral element of total reward statement. So if I let it define total reward statement in simple terms, it is actually the total net cost that I spend on an employee of whatever elements that you see on the screen, both monetary and non-monetary. So it is a monetary description of how much is the organization spending on them. And if you're going to ask me a question, will it be possible for an organization? Yes, that is a very good observation, Prabhu. Yes, at the same time, what happens is there are certain organizations which are overdoing on this, and because they overdo also they are losing talent. Just because a Google or a Microsoft is able to do something which pretty much works for their model of operation and their culture, a small and medium enterprise in India which is working on a little, we should also take into consideration the business model of the organization while we develop the total rewards plan. We need to understand whether our business model is more towards operational excellence or product leadership or service delivery, or customer intimacy model. Not necessary that it is always applicable only to IT, ITES. I was talking of, my experience of doing it in a slightly traditional environment like TVS, which is a legacy organization in India. We have been trying to implement, and we have implemented total rewards concept in some parts of TVS, which is the real legacy business, which is 100 years old, a century old legacy business in India. So if you see that statement saying that the essence is identifying what works best for my organization, my country, my culture, and my market, and trying to connect all the puzzle pieces together so that we are able to put in place the right compensation plan, a total rewards plan. So that's it pretty much about the total rewards concept as such. Are there any questions at this point, or as a conclusion, we'll just have a showcasing of what organizations generally do? That's a very good question. Where TRP has backfired. TRP never backfires. Insensitive implementation of TRP designed based on aspirations of aping some other organization, or developing a total rewards plan based on poor data, which is not backed up with proper data, relevant data, or poor data. Yes, it does backfires. So unfortunately, I'm constrained to give names of organizations, but there are quite a few, even multinational corporations in India, whose names we all of us know, where TRP has backfired, and there are companies who have taken back certain parts of total rewards as well. So being a public forum, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to share specifics. Maybe we can connect offline. Yes, it does require consulting, because there are two elements which we need to, or rather 3 elements which we need to connect together to build a. So the question is, do you think if we need to implement, when we need to implement TRP, it requires a consultant? Yes, it does require. The reason is, we'll have to connect 3 important parts of it, called 1, the demographics of the employees in the organization, which has to be collected through survey methods, and there needs to be an opinion survey developed. So this is more of the internals of the organization. Second is the geography in which the the organization operates. Sometimes in vast countries, geography also plays a major role. In a particular, the same company operating in 2 different parts of the country, there are certain components which may not work in a particular geography, but which works pretty much well in a different geography. So the country's market trend and the geographic context pretty much matters. And third is also the laws of the land. So it is strongly recommended that a consultant who has vast experience in these 3 areas, who can work along with the experts inside the organization to create a model which will work. So yes, consulting is pretty much required, and that has actually been the trigger that after 12 years of being in the industry has given me the optimistic motivation to start on my own. And the last 1 year has been a phenomenal journey. And now out of my limited experience of having consulted in the last 1 year, what I'm able to see is that CEOs of even small and medium enterprises and family enterprises, where the second generation is taking over in India and rather in Asia, they are pretty much interested in mending their policies and compensation to attract and retain GenY workforce. And yes, the good news is, if any one of you are aspiring to be a consultant in this space, to have the right exposure, the right background, yes, there are excellent opportunities in front of you. And for those who are asking the questions from the organization slide, I would strongly recommend, please do take help of an external expert. how TRP connects to employee engagement levels, what type of statistics should we look at? So, I mean, to understand your question a little further, so are you asking about a pre-assessment statistics or post implementation statistics? Post. Excellent. So, one is the rewards program satisfaction survey to straight away understand how much of the monetary rewards are in line with their expectations. And second is a organizational health index or a cultural dipstick survey to see what kind of cultural change is happening, and your attrition data and the analytics of your exit interview data. One of the rich source of information, but unfortunately not being used many a time, is the exit interview data. So if we look at all of this together, today the major problem, especially in developing organizations or even in developed organizations for that matter, is that we have so much of HR data, but we have very less time to look at the HR data and understand and interpret the data and exploit it for the benefit of the organization. So to answer your question, if you have to see what tangible impact it is creating on the engagement, it requires a separate HR analytics, a dedicated HR analytics department, which will be able to give you the results and the projections. And this can be used as a tool to keep fine-tuning our policies and reward plans from time to time. Did that answer your question? Thank you so much. So any other questions on the total rewards front? Oh, here's somebody who's saying the information is useful. I really enjoyed interacting with you guys as well. I mean, a lot of thought-provoking questions. So yeah, shall we move on to the next one? We are almost at the fag end of this discussion, and I thought my job is half done if I don't leave you with a wow factor of showing what are some crazy practices that organizations do to attract and retain their GenY talent. But before that, I also want to show, this might be a little disheartening. My intention is actually not to disappoint or or embarrass or rather intimidate any the HR fraternity here or who are outside this world. This is one survey which says, despite so much of expectations from the GenY population, how much is the HR sensitive to these expectations? So I am not going into each and every line item, but I have picked up one specific item, the major item called social media access at workplace. Yes, I do agree that all of us have our own views. I had a terrific challenge when I had to rationalize and put in place a social media usage policy in a traditional organization like TVS. It did backfire. We had to have multiple iterations and all that. But at least the point I'm trying to make here is that how many organizations are sensitive. Unfortunately, 50% of the survey says that 54% of the respondents who have participated, HR practitioners who have participated in the survey, say that social networking sites are completely banned inside the organization. So this is something which so if we start doing such dipsticks in various aspects, we will understand how far away are we from total rewards as a concept, and how much we need to be sensitive as a HR fraternity. As Jack Welch rightly said, change before you have to. So this is something I would like to leave this thought with all of you to ruminate after this session and understand how we can practically. So it is also like watching a Bruce Lee movie. Once the movie is over, all of us are excited. Once we move out of the cinema hall, we feel like hitting 5-6 people. And apparently what happens is the spirit dies down after a week, after a month, and it is completely forgotten. So we need to look at it in a focused manner. We need to take each line item. There's a lot of research, as I said, which has to happen within the organization, around the organization, which is in the market where the organization is operating, and in the context of the country in terms of the laws of the land. So, and looking at variable feasibility factors, we need to have a roadmap in terms of how we are going to implement policies and practices and total rewards in place to ensure that at the end of the period where we are envisioning, we are there. So it is not a sudden overnight change, or it is not a reaction to the market. Rather, it is a proactive, planned, a clearly drawn out roadmap which will take us to our next level of developing and retaining the GenY talent. Yes, now we are here in terms of showcasing some of the company best practices. So I think this is kind of relevant to the previous question which was asked. If we have to be on top of the data with regard to how much is our total rewards or our emotional compensation driving engagement, the utilization of technology, scientific tools, statistical models, and the expertise, analytics expertise. Gone are the days where we say that HR are typical counselors and they are typical engagement people, or what do you call us, the employee relations people. Yes, all that stays, but HR is also becoming a key contributor to business, and HR has to be number savvy for that matter. So data analytics, as I already said, more than what data we have, the data makes sense when we analyze. So Accenture is already there. They are trying to make use, they use technological tools and platforms to continuously have a feel of how their total rewards framework helps in terms of, or how their new engagement policies are really driving engagement vis-a-vis their attrition data. So connecting the dots is pretty much essential. We cannot look at each HR data in silos. It requires somebody to draw a storyboard who is an analyst. And Mindtree has come up with an initiative called K2Y. So we are now not scared of Y2K anymore. We are on K2Y world, where CEO is connected with the young minds of the organization through Facebook. An Axis Bank, which is a popular Indian private sector bank, has appointed engagement champions across cities to help structure initiatives and policies that work for GenY. Yeah. And Mahindra has gone one step further, and they have created something called as shadow boards, where the young people of the organization are becoming the board members. They are actually being simulated to become board members in the long run, and they start taking up business challenges. But of course, these cannot happen at the wink of an eye. This needs to be supported with a lot of pre-work in terms of organizational development initiatives. Like, we need to put the right checks and balances in place to have the right people on board. We have to do a lot of assessment centers and development centers, and it is not just that at the click of a button tomorrow morning we can have such an initiative. So typically, in my experience, these kind of initiatives, the incubation period is about 18 to 36 months if the roadmap is clearly drawn out. And here's an organization called Malco, where they have developed, so far we have been seeing initiatives which are focused on GenY. Now interestingly, Malco has developed leadership development program which is to equip the Gen X and baby boomer leaders who are handling GenY to become the kind of leaders that the GenY wants. Isn't it amazing? And having worked in Stanchart for a while, I'm doing an injustice to the organization if I don't showcase what Stanchart does there, but especially Scope International, which is their captive center in India. So we have 20 days of compulsory block leave every year, where employees are not supposed to access their business tools, and every employee gets to do compulsory 2 days of volunteering every year. And beyond that, yes, between them and their boss, they can do any amount of volunteering. We have a huge volunteering database based on which we try to match people with the different kinds of volunteering activities they love to do. There are people who like to go for coastal cleanup, that's different. People who work on HIV/AIDS, and people who like to do blood donation camps, and then there are people who like to go and educate underprivileged children. So even volunteering is very specialized today. So there are scientific tools which connects the needs and preferences in terms of volunteering of each and every employee in the organization based on analytics of their past volunteering contributions. So we are trying to make it as customized as possible. And height of craziness that I have heard so far is, as always known as an organization for, GE having always known as an organization for innovation, has a concept called, this is existing in India, I'm not sure if it has been emulated across the globe, but GE India has this practice called design your own workspace. So where every employee gets a budget to design and create his or her workspace the way they want it. And the list is long. I'm just trying to show you certain things which are really, which have inspired me in my short journey of my compensation benefits career. And I'm sure once you start reading more and then you start getting into more of trending, there's a lot that we can see in terms of this kind of interesting practices that organizations get into. So at the bottom line of all of this, just to quickly connect the dots, to create a successful total compensation plan or a comprehensive compensation plan which will attract and retain GenY, there are some key factors called, one is understanding their psyche, and second is understanding their needs and preferences, and third comes understanding the market in which we operate, the market place in which we operate, and fourth is ultimately having the right advisors or the right consultants in place who will be in a position to guide us in terms of who will be able to balance between the internal data intelligence that is available in the market analytics and then creating the right marriage between these two data factors. And finally, last but not the least, a very important aspect is having the proper technology and scientific tools in place. So I would like to reiterate, my dear friends, we can have piles and piles of, we talk about big data and analytics today, but we can have piles and piles of HR data, but unless we start looking into it and start analyzing it by connecting the dots, this data is not going to mean anything to us. And I'm sure the trend is looking very promising when it comes to the industry, especially in India, since most of the participants are from India. It is sounding quite optimistic that the Indian HR professionals are wanting, I'm able to see from the kind of questions that have come up. I'm in fact excited that we are all inclined towards creating a very vibrant work culture and workspace by putting in place the right engagement and reward plans. So there's a lot of technology and there's a lot of external expertise which is also there to support us. So the point is we should be in a position to go and convince our management. It all ultimately boils down to how well we go and convince our management inside the boardroom. If we consciously are motivated and we have that amount of data to go and convince our board, I'm sure our shareholder, right from our CEO to the shareholders, all of us are interested. And nobody will have a second thought when it comes to attracting and retaining the best talent. And so that brings us to the end of this discussion on how to create a meaningful, interesting and attractive compensation and rewards plan for the GenY. Having said that, the story doesn't end there. As I said, we have a long way to go. But before that, let me put another precaution in place. A positive precaution which will be interesting for you. Okay, I'm just passing for a question. Volunteering, do they get rewarded or it's just a very interesting question. Thanks for asking this question, Jima. It is not just the intellectual satisfaction or the psychological motivation that I get out of volunteering. Volunteering is tagged to my PMS. I said that everybody has to do 2 days of volunteering. So people who don't get to do 2 days of volunteering in a year see a penalty factor in their PMS. So organizations do it differently. There are companies who connect it to the performance management system. They make it part of their KRAs to participate in volunteering. Some companies make it as part of their comprehensive task assessment plan. There are organizations where people get reward points for volunteering. Any questions? I'm hearing voices, so any questions, please. My experience of implementing TRP. Okay, was not a bed of roses. It was absolutely a bed of thorns, but the end result was really rewarding because we had the right consultant in place. So we had the right consultant in place, and it took almost 24 months for the features of the plan to percolate to the rock bottom of the organizational pyramid. And I personally, as the head of rewards, had to travel to different locations of the organization. And yes, that was a very interesting question, where whatever we do sitting at the corporate, ultimately, if it has to percolate as heads of rewards or HR practitioners who are in charge of rewards practice, we will have to personally spend time with our people, either by exploiting technology or, if possible, in small organizations or family held organizations. My recommendation is, please physically go visit people, have interaction sessions. I would have done not less than about 65 to 70 road shows personally myself for this initiative to be successful. And there has always been disheartening circumstances when, after so much of effort, say during the third year, somebody writes with a very fundamental question of why this compensation changed. So yes, it is a little tough battle to fight, but if we have the conviction, it will happen. That is my experience. Hope Sampata, I answered your question. So we have come to the fag end of this discussion, and as I said, I thought I will leave you with a small I'll leave you with a small taller expectation called, having discussed and understood a lot about how to create a good compensation plan that works for GenY, that doesn't leave us there. So there is this next generation called Generation Z, which is going to very shortly hit the market, a very, very different generation. So I have already started my research on this generation. Now this generation is actually in school and high school and colleges, and I hope in the next 1 decade we will see that this next set of millennials will also be hitting the industry. And I hope a few years down the line we may actually, it's a small world, so we'll all reconnect to discuss about how to develop an interesting and exciting compensation plan for Gen Z. And that's how life becomes interesting and exciting for the HR fraternity. I hope and I think this interaction was useful, and I hope I did help in terms of, with my limited knowledge and experience, I was able to help whatever possible in the limited duration that we had. I'm going to share my coordinates after this presentation, and I am available on LinkedIn and Facebook and any social media, and my mail ID as well. We can connect offline for specific questions. Can same GenY benefits apply for Gen X people who displace that attitude? Yes, of course, it does apply. So I hope there was a bit of your expectations at the beginning of this session that you had, which this session was able to meet. And I'll be really happy if that was the case. And in case if somebody feels there is much more to discuss, or you would like to have in-depth interactions, it would be really great. We can connect up over social media or through emails. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for sharing liberally the good amount of your work time, despite your busy schedule. All of you are very responsible HR professionals, and despite that, oh, that was J. Hema. I'm really sorry. I read it as Jima. Really sorry for that. So, yeah. So I'm really happy. I'm really thankful to each one of you that you've spent good amount of time from your busy schedule to attend to this webinar, and I hope it has helped, and let us connect up in future as well. Thanks a lot, my dear friends. And so here are my coordinates for you to make a note of quickly. And with that, I'd like to sign off. It's a pretty long name, I do understand. And those who probably feel that you want some parts of this presentation which would help in terms of your practice in your organizations, please do ping the organizers of the seminar. They will consolidate all the questions and suggestions, and I will take it up from them and I will share my inputs accordingly. Thanks for joining in and have a great day. Wish you all the very best in developing a great compensation plan for your GenY workforce. Thank you. Have a great day.